Welcome back to On the Lane. My name is Jeff, and joining me again is my permanent podcasting partner, Craig. Welcome back, Craig.
Hey, it's good to be here, Jeff.
It's good to see you. So we continue our discussion on interpretation principles. This is the third in this session, and this one is around understanding negatives. Have you ever noticed how often the Bible teaches by saying that something is not? Sometimes a single not can completely change the meaning of a passage. And if we skim it, we can walk away with the exact opposite of what the text is emphasizing. Today we're covering an interpretation principle that sounds simple, but it's easy to miss: understanding negatives. In Scripture, negatives don't always function the same way. Sometimes they're straightforward, don't do this, but other times the Bible uses negatives to intensify a point, or even to imply a strong positive. And I think, again, we're going to look at a few examples. But, as we've done on the last two, let's introduce this topic a bit, and why is this important, and, how can we use this to help us understand and interpret Scripture?
It's important in our regular language usage, and it's important in how we understand how language is used in the Scripture, because it is used that way, and we understand it, and it's logical. I always think of that what I considered funny joke by Yogi Berra. He always had these Yogi Berrisms, like, that place is so crowded nobody goes there anymore, right? It's like you see the contradiction there. But there's two elements, and A.W. Pink in his book on interpretive techniques has these broken out into two sections. We're combining them because it just made it easier.
Absolutely.
They're very short. One is interrogative statements as emphatic negatives. So statements of questions are very emphatic, very forceful negatives. Like, it doesn't, this doesn't mean that. Some questions need to be treated as strong denials. And some simple negatives imply a positive. And so maybe we can look at a couple examples, an example for each of these.
So just to kind of recap there, so we're unpacking this understanding negatives kind of on two sub-principles: interrogative statements as emphatic negatives. I think you heard you say that, or I just reread that off my sheet here.
Okay.
And the other one is simple negatives that implies a positive. So yeah, I think it's going to be helpful to take each of those under a scriptural example. And I think the first example that we're going to look at for interrogative statements as emphatic negatives is Job 11, verse 7. So first example, interrogative statements as emphatic negatives, Job 11, verse 7. Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty?
That's a great question in Scripture, and I think we have enough there to understand it. Can you find out the deep things of God?
No.
Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? It's like, well, I think based on what we know by ourselves, we should say, well, can the finite comprehend the infinite? Well, that's a challenge. That's like that two-dimensional being that's like a sheet of paper comes into contact with a three-dimensional ball. Let's say they can still pass through. So two-dimensional being starts off interacting with it as a point. It becomes a circle, it grows big to the width of the sphere, and then it shrinks down. And so it doesn't comprehend it because it understands two dimensions, not three. And so it thinks it's this vacillating, little circle to big circle that disappears. So we understand that we're limited, God is unlimited, we're finite, He's infinite. There is naturally going to be a limitation on how well we can know the things of God. He has certainly revealed things in the two books, creation and also Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't revealed everything, but He's revealed many things. And so by this question alone, we should know, it should be clear that we can't know everything about God, especially the deep things about God. And we can't grasp things in that comprehensive or exhaustive manner. We can't go to the full depths of the infinite. But that's pretty clear. But if you keep reading, it'll become more clear too in this passage, right? Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? It is higher than heaven. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. If He passes through and imprisons and summons the court, who can turn Him back? For He knows worthless men. When He sees iniquity, will He not consider it? But a stupid man will get understanding when a wild donkey's colt is born a man. And so it's just like, there's so much more. It's like higher, wider, deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Who can turn him back? He's God. And so we see that question there is, can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? The answer is very much an emphatic no. It's like, no. That's not possible. So we can use our brain, but we also understand it, and we also see, hopefully and helpfully, in the book of Job, we see more written about that.
So is the use here of this technique to really emphasize that we have no concept of the Almighty? Is that what we're getting at?
I don't think so.
No.
I think we do have a concept of the Almighty. He's from the two books, ever since the creation of the world, his invisible nature and eternal power and deity have been clearly perceived in the things that have been made. That's enough to render us without excuse, as we read in Romans 1. But he's revealed things in his word, many things about him, his grace, his mercy, but not everything. I don't think that we could understand all of it, right? But he has revealed very much of that, and so we can understand a lot because he has revealed it to us. And this is a great blessing and kindness to us that he has revealed so much of it.
Yeah, I guess the key words here, the deep things of God. Not that can we not know God, but the deep things, right? We can't plumb the depths of his knowledge or wisdom because we're finite.
And that's always a good caution. We can use that as an escape hatch, or it can be a good caution. We can say, I don't understand this. I don't have to work, at pulling Scripture together or working to understand this. Oh, that's the deep things of God. And it may be just take a little bit of work to get to, but it's there. Or it may be it's like, he hasn't revealed what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to end and say, I don't know how that works, but I'm going to trust him. It's not a contradiction. It's just, I can't understand that. I'm not God. I'm that 2-dimensional being, and he's a 50-dimensional being. Can't even comprehend all the aspects of it.
Yeah, I guess it's like the, when it was just the Torah, and in reading that, and then you read you read the New Testament. It's like all of those things that were written in the Old Testament. Now we have a better understanding because we have more of God's revealed will.
Revealed will?
Yeah, God's revealed will. Okay, so Job 11:7, our first passage. Now, as we move into the second passage, which is Matthew 12:20, this is more around a simple negative that implies a positive.
Yeah.
So you want to...
Yeah, something that's like a negation or a negative often carries an implied positive. Not always, but often. And here's an example. It says in 12:20, in Matthew 12:20, a bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench. And I've lifted that out of a passage. I could read the whole thing. It's quoting Isaiah. I'll pick it up at 18. Read the whole section there.
Sure.
Behold, my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved with whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he will proclaim justice to the Gentiles. He will not quarrel or cry aloud, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench. So the definitions there, he's not going to break a bruised reed or quench a smoldering wick. Obviously, there's a personification of people in a way, or seekers, or those that are pursuing the Lord. But this, by saying he won't break those that are tender, this seems to imply very clearly tender or gentle care for people. And you also see that exhibited in Scripture, how he speaks very kindly to some, and others who are not a bruised reed or a smoldering wick, but are very obstinate against the Lord. His dealing with them is very different. It's very harsh. And so it's the response is different. So this is, the simple negative implies a positive. I'm not going to crush the reed or quench the smoldering wick, but I'm going to be careful and provide care for them.
Indeed. So as we wrap up this discussion on understanding negatives, any final thoughts here, Craig, on this topic, these passages?
Well, just think about questions and sort of the simple negatives, and making sure we understand things right. Just like we have to be careful and understand how we communicate in modern English in our own thoughts, we need to be mindful of Scripture's meaning, tone, intent.
So with that, we'll wrap this one up. Craig, again, thank you for your time and instruction on this topic. And
speaking of time, at 10:30 on Sunday mornings at 101 Carriage Lane, we gather for worship. If you're new to the area or visiting, or you don't have a church home, love to meet with you and worship with you.
Come out and see us. Thanks for joining us.